All right, please welcome back Director H.P. Mendoza.
Thank you.
So I have a very specific memory of the last, when we did a Q&A of this film. I don't know if I ever talked to you about this. And I looked it up today just to confirm this. This was in 2012 at the San Diego Asian Film Festival. It was on a Tuesday night in November. Specifically, it was election night. And I remember after the film was done, we came up and we announced to the audience that Barack Obama had won re-election. Doesn't that sound like so many worlds ago?
Yeah, it does. It feels like fiction.
It feels like, right? But to me, like that's also like just how like long ago this was, and like just a different lifetime, a different like world that we were living in.
I know.
And different parts of our own lives.
I think in my life at that point, that was the first time I started marking my output by the administration. Also, it's like, oh yeah, who was president at that time? Who was running for president at the time? That was the beginning of it all for me.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Does that ever affect the kinds of movies you make, like the kind of the zeitgeist, the political zeitgeist?
I don't think so. Mostly because I will always be working from a place of making movies about existence as resistance, right? So for example, I mean like Colma the Musical, like what? As we were shooting Fruit Fly, Proposition 8 was a big thing, you know? So imagine like having your rights just on the line as you're shooting this very brown, queer movie, right? And and you know, maybe it did, because it actually got me to rewrite one of the songs. So this is the first time I directed was a musical called Fruit Fly, and the second to last song was called My Makeup, and it was supposed to be like a bunch of drag queens putting on their makeup. And as like we were getting more involved, my husband, well, my boyfriend at the time, we were trying to get arrested, you know, in San Francisco. We were like joining these rallies, and we remember going up to a rally, and the cop was like, "Oh, so you want to get arrested? Hey, these two want to get arrested. Is there space?" And the cop's like, "Yeah, tell them to come back at 4." So like only in San Francisco would like a political array be like subject to bureaucracy. Anyway, the point being, I changed the song My Makeup to being about drag queens to just people talking about their makeup, like who they are. And like the chorus of the song now is, we're gonna live life undenied. So maybe, yeah, I guess so, but I don't know. I Am a Ghost. And do you think I Am a Ghost has any political discourse behind it?
Well, so I'm curious, because when this first came out, I think you were teasing the fact that this was a queer film.
Yes.
You didn't really say it.
Yeah.
But I think things have changed. I don't know if you want to speak to this.
Sure, yeah. You know, what's really interesting is I'm really happy to see that like the discussion across the board, like when it comes to like neurodivergence, sexuality, gender identity, all of it is very open now. But I'll be completely honest, I might be just super old school. Like I will say I'm queer, but if I talk about my gender dysphoria, that's kind of none of your business, right? If I talk about my neurospiciness, also none of your business. You know, like I feel like, you know, like fine, you want to respect me, you want to be my ally, stop grilling me about it. But I will make a movie that deals with that, right? So I Am a Ghost was very much that for me, and I still don't really want to answer that because I want these movies to still feel like ciphers for people to kind of inject themselves into, right? And with that said, I feel like you're the only person that actually ever addressed that, and that was like 2012, because like for years to come, people like wouldn't address it as a queer film. People wouldn't, you know, they were like, well, there's a single thing that's queer about this. There's nothing Asian about it. There's nothing to do with mental illness in it. Really? Like they actually use the words mental illness in it. And recently, I stumbled upon an essay by a black trans writer who said I Am a Ghost is the only horror film that speaks to their identity. And I had to reach out to Salem Void and say, please, can you expand on this? And they didn't just expand on it, they made like a whole featurette, like a video featurette, and they're narrating it, and it's on the new Blu-ray that just came out for I Am a Ghost. So I may not be as happy as I thought I would be, thinking that it was gonna like spread like wildfire in queer circles. But hey, I mean, Second Life, it's happening now.
Yeah. How else have you seen this film, like this reception, change throughout the years? I'm sure like 2012, when you first put it out, it was like, who knows where this is gonna go? But now that you've seen the path it's gone, I don't know if you've had had time to reflect on that.
Yeah, I think so. In 2012, I had just done the musical Fruit Fly, and that was a very cheap movie too. That was we had a $25,000 budget, and I had a ton of extras, so it was very guerrilla because we had to shoot in trains, like musical numbers in trains. So we were stealing without permits, and I think a lot of people thought, okay, this is going to be your calling card. You'll get a bigger budget, and you don't have to steal anymore. This is actually the most guerrilla film I've ever done. Like, we stole this. We took over. We rented as many rooms as we could in in a bed and breakfast. It was like this really bright, queer B&B that my husband then dimmed, and we shot it all at night, and we just lit from the windows, right, to give it shadows that weren't actually there. He created a bunch of props to make it look like it was like kind of half Japanese, half Victorian, and it was a working B&B. So like Rick Burkhardt, who plays the naked demon, he's ready to go. And by the way, we had a crew of two. It was me and my husband. And I'm doing sound. I have this boom, and I'm operating and I'm DPing, and I gaffed. And I'm like, action. He comes running out, chasing after our lead actress. And L.A. Renigan, who's from Coleman the Musical, she's also from lead in Fruit Fly. She flew down just to help out. And she was on terry cloth duty, so she had this huge terry cloth. If anybody walked out of their rooms, she had to run and cover the demon. And I'd hide the camera under my coat, and there's this like demon like in like a bathrobe, just like, oh hey, how's it going? Like it's like talking to all like the people who are staying at the B&B. So it's totally stolen. So with that said, I had to do it that way because imagine pitching this in 2012 after doing a pretty rousing, quick-paced musical, right? I think for the most part, when I would pitch this, people would be like, okay, yeah, this is an interesting idea. Call me when you have another musical. And I'm like, well, okay, well, I really want to do I Am a Ghost. And it was Julia Kwan who actually said this to me. She was the director of Even the Fire Horse that played here in 2001. It won the Grand Jury Prize here in 2006. She said to me, she says, you keep saying one day you'll do I Am a Ghost, but like, you know what happened to that scrappy spirit of yours? Why don't you just do it? And I was like, oh wow, can I? So we put it on a credit card. The whole film, like the production itself cost $7,500. I had no one breathing down my neck. I was like, I don't want anyone to tell me that they hate there's no dialogue for 20 minutes. Like that it has to be this way, and it has to repeat itself because we have to drive these images into the audience's head. So to this day, this is still the only film that I feel like I had complete control over. And because of that, I thought, no one's gonna take this. And it was kind of true, like a lot of the top tier festivals, or like, you know, like the fests in general in America, were kind of like, okay, no thanks, but by the way, I'm a fan of your musicals, let me know when you make one. And it was great because I did CAM, and then I did you guys, and I did my normal 1 year's worth of fests. And with the normal trajectory for someone like me, my class of filmmaker, which is, you know, like you do 1 year and then you figure out distribution. So 1 year passed, and suddenly, like Fangoria caught wind, and they're like, have you heard of this European festival? I submitted to one European festival. All the European festivals were like, give me your film. And we started winning all these awards. And there was one where I tied with Alfonso Cuarón for Gravity. That was nuts. That's a French audience for you though, right? So like France, like twice in France, 3 times in Spain, a bunch of European. We did a Swiss one. We did there was one. Rotterdam was one, and then all of a sudden, year 3 came, and I was like, okay, well, I guess now we do distribution. But all those American festivals were suddenly like, hey, yeah, we always believed in your film. You want to play with us? And I thought it was weird. It was very unorthodox. That's pretty unorthodox, you know, to have like a bunch of American festivals say, we know we missed it the first time around, but like, you know, do you have distribution? And I was being honest. I said, no, not yet. So that happened, and that led to distribution, which is why it was a 3-year run. Now that alone had various modes of like how I felt about it, right? Like my self-esteem was like up and down for all of that. I'm like, do I have a weird piece of shit or do I have a good piece of shit? And I think what happened was, by the time it hit distribution, but like when like the actual like theatrical run, you had a different kind of audience member. Mm-hmm. You had the kind of audience member which is probably very much like what you are right now. You just come to see a movie. a lot of times the festie, right? The festie who knows they're about to watch a film that's still in the circuit that might still be being worked on, they're walking in like, okay, yeah, what can I pick on? Yeah, this is the amateur film, yeah. And at their notes, they're at the Q&A, it's just like, this isn't so much a comment as it is a question. As a filmmaker myself, why'd you do this? But then when it's a theatrical release, no one has that mindset, right? And all of a sudden, people were just looking at this as, oh, it's an art house film for horror fans or a horror film for art house fans. And I'm like, yes, that's exactly what I wanted to do. That's a long-winded answer to say that there have been many phases, and I'm curious to see like 2025 and on, like what Level 33 like reveals,
Yeah, I do remember you posted on social media the moment that you found out that this film got pirated. You want to tell us the story behind that?
Oh man, are we really? Oh, I'm kind of embarrassed. Okay.
If you don't tell, I can tell.
No, I'll oh my God.
Because it's kind of an honor, right? To be pirated.
Yeah. No, it is. Like I remember there was a filmmaker that we were hanging out with in SDAFF who, on the way, like at the Toronto Film Festival, we were walking to her screening and she saw her film on the ground being sold as a DVD. And she's like, we didn't even design a DVD yet, where'd that come from? So yeah, it is an honor. But in this case, it was being torrented, and I Am a Ghost had just been sold, like days before. And I was like, I just sold this. There's not even a release date. How is it being torrented? So I was like, wait a minute, okay, let me torrent it myself. So I loaded Views, and I found the magnet link, and I let it do its thing, and I watched it, and I was like, oh hell no! I noticed exactly which cut it was. It was the cut right before it went to France. So I was like, something happened in France, right? Because I do weird things with my festival cuts where I'll change one thing to make it so I know which version it is. Like I'll switch the order of shots. I'm like, that's the French cut, and I was like, huh. Well, I'm not going to blame the French festival, because it's bigger than that now, right? So I said, how can I stop people? This is horrible, because also, by the way, the distributors do not like this when they know that they have a filmmaker whose film isn't even out yet that's being torrented. They, for some reason, unfairly, they question the filmmaker. Like I would ever torrent my own film. So I did. I said, fuck that, I will torrent my own film, but at major plot points, I just replaced it with gay porn. And I got such hate mail. People were like on Facebook, like posting like these really awful things. I'm like, you're just telling on yourself, man, you torrented it. And I still have that cut sitting on my shelf to this day.
I'm guessing that's not the version that's on Blu-ray now.
No.
Do you want to tell us about the new, like the new life, right? That Level 33 has it. And I guess you could talk about the restoration. Like, I don't know if restoration is the right word.
Yeah, it's a weird thing, right? It is, but it's not. It is also a remaster. It's a remaster.
It's a remaster, yeah.
With an element of restoration.
But do you want to tell us what that means? Or maybe like we start real technical. Like, what did you shoot it on, and like what was that format that allows you to
steal? Yeah, we shot with a consumer camera. At the time, everybody was like, "You got to shoot with the Canon 5D." Does anyone remember that, like the dialogue around like the Canon 5D? And I was like, I can't afford the Canon 5D. Why don't I just go for its little brother, the Canon 7D? And it's very prosumer, right? And I remember talking to Rich Wong, who is my cinematographer for Fruit Fly, the film I did before I Am a Ghost. And it was very interesting because he had just bought a script off of me that he was about to shoot. It was Yes, We're Open.
Oh, yeah.
And he was like, can you wait till we're done? Because I kind of need you on set for that. And I was like, I was hoping to shoot mine while I'm on set for your film. But I get it, you probably can't DP. You can't be the director of photography for this. And he just kind of jokingly, but not jokingly, was like, but dude, we went to the same film school, you shoot it. And I was like, yeah, you know what, I will. So we shot it with a consumer camera, like a Canon, like prosumer camera, like not even professional, it's prosumer. But I just tried to control the light as much as possible. And like the good thing is, but by having a small crew, it was like a 5-person crew, me, my husband Mark DeLima, who we formed Ersatz Film together, Anna Ishida, who wore many hats, her 2 stunt doubles, and one more person, that was the demon, right? When you have that like a very small ragtag crew, you can unify the aesthetic. right? I can say like, this is exactly how things have to be done. This is how it has to look. I'm going to show you some films. I showed them Picnic at Hanging Rock.
Yep.
I said, this film has to follow the tenets of filmmaking from 1975. Like, I mean, even the editing style, right? And then I showed them Persona, which is a Bergman film that feels just as broken as this does. And then I showed them Jean Dielman. And they were very bored, but they were very patient with me because I love Jean Dielman. I don't know if you guys have all seen it, but it's actually just topped the AFI best film, top 100.
Sight and Sound.
Sight and Sound, that's right, yeah. And all of them had that 70s look. And I said, so I want all of you to help me maintain this look. And I was like, all of a sudden they all became cinematographers, right? Like Anna was like, are the shadows too harsh on my face? And I was like, yeah, like good looking out. Because I was the one gaffing, right? So all of this was super guerrilla because we're also doing it without managers finding us. We're like doing things like there was this house in Maine that we found, and we had to get all the shots before like the owners came back. And then we left Maine. And like the attic scene, for example, I didn't realize how much of a brat I was being. I wasn't like a petulant brat, but I was like, it has to look like this. She has to climb the stairs and then open the door and walk into this. And like my husband's from the East Coast. He's like, there are no attics like that. Attics don't do that. Where'd you get this idea for that attic? I said, I don't know, but I want it. I'm sure I've seen that somewhere before. Turns out it was Beetlejuice. That is a Tim Burton invention. Because I grew up with Beetlejuice, that's my only experience with attics. So like, oh, the attics must be like that. You walk upstairs and then you open a door. So we had to use 4 locations to make that work. So it was an attic that you actually had to climb. It was a staircase that was part of the B&B that we had to guard with L.A. Renigan's help. It was 2 parts of my apartment. So yeah, it's 4 locations for that. So it's guerrilla, cheap filmmaking, and what I love about never having revealed any of that stuff until now is that no one ever knew it was a guerrilla film.
So how did that look versus what we just saw? Then?
Oh, that's right. That's where we were going. I knew. One of the things that happens when you go for distribution is not every distribution story is a Cinderella story. Everyone's like, oh, I'm going to be an independent filmmaker. I'm going to make it like Robert Rodriguez. I'm going to do like El Mariachi, and then I will end up making huge blockbuster films. That's a Cinderella story. Like most people kind of go the route that I did, which is that you do a ton of film festivals and just like do this, right? And then I finally found a distributor, and at the time, a lot of the distributors of this level, their whole thing is like, thanks for the film, get the fuck out of my face, and we'll do whatever we want with your film. And so the very first film I directed, like they were very much like, we're going to tinker with your sound. And the gravitas wasn't, we will tinker with your sound, but they reframed the movie. It was, they admitted that they liked the round corners that I'd done for it, but they asked for like the transparent PNG, you know? They wanted the elements, and I actually thought that, how cool? What does that mean? Like they're gonna do something to improve on it. They blew the frame up and then they put the frame on top of that. So the original version of this, where you were missing a lot of the picture, and they were using what I'd given them, which had the grain put on, so the grain got really big, you know? And it just looked like a blurry movie, you know? And like, while I wanted this to be grainy, I didn't want it to look like it was like a 720p picture. I didn't want it to look low res, you know? And in both cases of Fruit Fly and I Am a Ghost, like no matter which producers I would sick on them, and even if it was myself, their answer is like, oh, well, no one's complained, you know? And so for 10 years, it stuck that way, you know? And I kind of was like, okay, well, oh, look, it looks really washed out. And then I went to the theatrical premiere, which was great. I mean, like the actual premiere was great because it was at the Castro Theater and we did a lot of the score live. But then I'm sitting there, I'm like, what happened to all of like the surround? What's going on here? We must be playing a stereo track. Oh well, that must just be the theater. I found out that they'd actually collapsed the 5.1 soundtrack to an LTRT mix, and I don't know if I'm getting too technical, but it's like basically like a Dolby surround mix, and then expanded it back to 5.1, which is not the same as having the original mix. So like, I don't know if you saw me and Brian standing there during the opening. The way anyone would have heard the film at the beginning is like watching shots of the house, and when you hear the crying, you would just kind of hear crying coming from the screen. But I designed it to be kind of like coming like from the back of the theater, and I never got that, you know? So I was really cool to stand with Brian in the back there, and I was just like, okay, where's the crying coming from? And as soon as I heard it coming from those speakers, I'm like, okay, good, we can go to dinner now. So, because like that's what I wanted, and I was really glad that Level 33 was willing to just kind of go back to the original files. And to be fair, what I think is really funny is their ad shows the original, and it says, and then Level 33s, and they show a line crossing, and you see like this new cleaner picture, which makes it look like they went in and cleaned it.
Yeah.
But no, they just used the original file.
Right.
You know? And Level 33, they're a new company. They used to be called Blue Fox, and they're the distributors for my most recent film, The Secret Art of Human Flight. And what I thought was great, it was such serendipity that we got really close. They're really good people. And they were really curious about what I was doing next, and were there any other films that I would want to distribute through them. And the terms had just ended for both Fruit Fly and I Am a Ghost. And both companies, when I said, hey, so I saw that the terms ended, the terms are ending like in a month or two, their thing was like, yeah, don't worry, you're set to auto-renew. And I unchecked the box that said auto-renew, and I let it expire. So that's why we have it now.
That's how distribution works. You just have to go in and auto.
Yeah, I know. It's like a DMV application. Yeah.
We've been talking a long time. I'm sure there's some questions in the audience. Anyone have any? Yeah.
At the beginning, you prefaced it with a little poem with Emily Dick, and that I'm going, well, what does this have? I said that's food for thought, because I'm thinking, okay, what does this have to do, with the ghost movie and I'm wondering, is she rolling over her in a grave because you used that or something? So how did you come up with sticking that in there?
So one, I feel like up until that point, everything I'd ever done always incorporates Emily Dickinson. Like even Coleman the Musical, there's a whole like musical number that leads into like a visualization of like me as Emily Dickinson, because I'm obsessed. But that poem specifically really spoke to me. It's called Haunted, and it's much longer, of course, but I did want to use that there because the idea of the film is that, first of all, you're not watching some family in a house that's haunted by something else. You're watching it from the point of view of the ghost, right? But she's haunted, and what is she haunted by? And before I can even answer that question, how about have a poem ask that question first by just stating the first few lines, And I like the idea of actually starting a film with a quote that asks questions as opposed to just kind of winking. Some winky quotes are fun. Like Kill Bill has revenge is a dish best served cold, blah blah blah. But like in this case here, it's more like, okay, well, what does that even mean?
Yes.
So if you're saying what does that even mean, then it's going to stick with you, and that's going to kind of haunt you as you watch the film, and you watch this haunted woman while you're haunted by the words of that poem. So I kind of wanted that to be a thing that just kind of lingers in the brain.
Right. I mean, it made me think internally to myself. Okay, if my mind is this way or this way.
Right. And so now that you finished the film, how do you feel about that quote?
That was very interesting. It was like, okay, well, what does that mean, and what does that pertain to a ghost story? And I like that the movie was interspersed with her making eggs. That was very comforting. It's like, okay, she's like a normal person.
Yeah. So you were craving like normality, or you were looking for something that was comforting, like amidst all the weirdness. Then, like you found that comforting.
Yes, I guess I view ghosts as tortured souls, so that the fact that she was, cooking eggs and everything, they go, okay, maybe it's not so bad to be a ghost. Except at the end, I go, okay, I guess it's not all that cracked up.
See, it's interesting, and that's great. I love that because I feel like I've talked to people over the years who've actually singled out the egg scene and said like, oh my God, that seems so horrifying to be stuck in the loop. Like how banal it must be to be a ghost, having the same meal over and over again. And they would find that horrifying. Also, eggs are in all my films. Like frying eggs are all in all my films. Yeah, Emily Dickinson and eggs.
I don't know. It just normalized being a ghost.
Sure. Yeah. And that's great. I'm glad you felt that way.
Yeah.
So I have a few questions. The first one is, I'm still perplexed by the ending, and I don't see any light there. Is there a light that I somehow missed, or are you trying to tell us to explore further?
So I'm going to quote myself at the Q&A for my last film, Secret Art of Human Flight, when a guy and his wife came up to me at Tribeca and said, "Hey, so we've been arguing about what does the meaning mean at the end of Secret Art of Human Flight, because my wife thinks it means this, and I think it means this." And she's like, "Oh, that is just like you. You're such a pessimist. Of course you think that." And he's like, "And that is just like you to be so damn rosy to think that everything is going your way." And I said, and this is what I said, well, I'd have to be a real fucking asshole to answer one of you that say that one of you is right. You know, because really the discussion is the point. And I think for me, what was really great about seeing the different people, like what people brought to this film, back when we first started screening this, is you had a lot of people who came to me and said, and I don't feel bad telling you what multiple people said, because it's now I'm just turning like an open question into like a multiple choice and still not answering it, right? But I've had people say, how interesting. So basically Sylvia was a shyster. You know, she's not a real psychic. This is like the Three Amigos of like ghost stories, or like the Frighteners, where you have like these sham psychics, which I thought was a very interesting take, because I do believe, like, I mean, I used to be obsessed with like Sylvia Brown, the fake psychic, you know, she was like a celebrity psychic, and I was always obsessed with the fact that she would just torture people with like, "Oh yeah, I know your husband's dead. He says hello," and she would be doing this like on Maury Povich or like Geraldo, but. That's one take, right? But I do think there were a lot of people who would come to me and say, like, "Are you trying to tell me that there's no afterlife?" And I said, "Well, do you feel that was the end of the movie? Mm-hmm. You know, if you feel that was the end of the movie, then you just answered your own question. But if you saw the way things cycle, what do you think happens next?" And she was like, "Well, that's what I'm asking you." I'm like, "Maybe she fries eggs." So, without answering it, I would say that just you asking the question is the response I want.
Okay, but I have two more questions that are very, very important. How many eggs did you go through?
Oh man! Again, so Anna Ishida wore so many hats. Like she's a partner. She's the only person that like whenever there's like a re-release or like is streaming anywhere, like we go to it together, because like we just did a lot of things together. It was such a small crew, and like the hand in the frying pan scene, like she gave her all to this role. She really did, and like she was thinking like a cinematographer, and she was thinking like an effects person, and you know we had to keep doing that frying scene over and over again, because she would just be doing it. She'd be like, and she's like, "That does not look painful. Let's do that again." I'm like, "Okay, what did you not get?" And she's like, "It's just my performance." I'm like, "I love that you're thinking about your finger performance, you know?" But she was also thinking about the chemicals that were in the pan to make sure that it looked like her hand was frying. So it took like about a dozen eggs.
So that was through the entire making of the movie, it was only a dozen eggs?
Oh yeah. About it was like less.
The question is, did any of the homeowners or Airbnb figure out that you had made films there, either during or afterwards?
Yes. So on the way out, checking out of that B&B, and by the way, so the house is also a lot of locations. It's not just the B&B. It's a B&B. It's a house on South Venice and like in the Mission District in San Francisco. It was a house in Vallejo. You know, it's just all these different places, and a house in Maine. But the B&B was the one we really had to like be very careful about, because they did catch us one time making a lot of noise, but they just thought we were loud people. But they got really angry because we were doing the stabbing scene, which just, you know. So imagine just like nothing, like they're knocking on our door wondering what's going on, and we're doing this like, whew, wow, they're not catching on to anything. This is great. So on the day that we check out, the owner is there. He's like, "Hey, yeah, you know, I'm really gonna miss you guys. You know, it was really nice having you guys here. It was, you know, you guys brought a lot of life, a lot of, you know, questions from people." I'm like, "Oh, yeah, I don't know anything about that. Good, nice seeing you." And he's like, "Yeah, and all, you know, the dresses." I'm like, "Oh wait, how does he know about the dresses? You know, how does he know about like this Victorian dress we had crafted for the movie?" He's like, "Yeah, and the naked guy." And I was like, "You knew?" And he was like, "We saw it all." And I saw right behind him was like this big like array of screens for the security cameras. And I was like, "Oh, well, I'll get you tickets to the movie." And so to this day, and honestly, so like just as a side note, like that's happened on like all my films, where like stealing on the trains for the musical that I did. I found out that in one of the train sequences was an employee for the train, for BART, for Bay Area Rapid Transit. And she was like, "Nice job stealing, by the way." So like, yeah, we're not as slick as we thought we were. Thank you.
Other questions? Yeah.
Hi, I really enjoyed the film. I also really loved The Secret Art of Human Flight.
Oh, thank you.
It was great. I wanted to pick out like one scene in particular that I just loved in this film. It was the scene where she opens one of the doors, and then the door just slowly sinks back into the like pitch black background, and then it just zooms back in, and she's screaming, "We can't hear." How did you like come up with that scene, or like how did you like stage that?
I'll do this how I staged it after I say how I came up with it. So growing up, I used to have this fear that I was a robot, you know, that I would like cut myself and I'd see like a bunch of pistons or something, you know. It's a weird way to start this answer, but it just kind of led to me also being afraid of feeling good, feeling happy, because there would be these moments where I'd be like, look, I'd be in the second grade, like with my friends, we're having a good time, like, oh, no, I feel really good, and I'm like super aware that I'm not sad. I'm like, this is great. Wait a minute, something could be wrong. What if I'm 90 years old and I'm reminiscing on my happiest moment? I was a fun kid, and so like I remember that like stuck with me for so long, and I would try to find ways to make a story about that, and it led to I Am a Ghost. And one of the explorations I always had was, asking myself, do you know what nothing is? Do you, like, I used to, I went to Catholic school, and, for 8 years. And going to Catholic school and going to Mass every morning, except Saturdays, right? Like you get fed these stories and you believe in beginnings and ends, right? But then when you have your science teachers telling you about like the vastness of space and space expanding, the universe expanding, that's freaky. And I started thinking to myself, like, what is a void? What is that? So then I finally saw Annie Hall and I felt seen, because at the beginning of Annie Hall, you see this kid who's like afraid of the universe expanding. And I was like, that's me. And I thought to myself, how would you convey that fear? And I thought to myself, well, it would really be the same fears that I have of tumbling into space. So how do you do that without tumbling into space? So I was like, okay, nothing would literally have no sound. So that scene was so fun because the manager was right there. If you watch the Blu-ray, like you see us shooting it, and you can hear like, "Hi, how are you doing? You're in room 109." You can hear people checking in. It's like, oh, what a beautiful little place this is. And then there's Anna kind of staring into this void. So we did it all silent, and then we went to San Leandro and went to this field and just had her scream the most like heart-wrenching scream, and she was really good at dubbing a lot of the lines, because a lot of the production audio was covered with like guests like clanging their forks against breakfast plates, and so a lot of what you're seeing is just like her really good voice dubbing. But yeah, so that's how we pulled it off.
Wow. Yeah.
I'm just curious. So throughout the film, there's like a lot of repeated scenes. Seemingly, is that Anna like redoing the scenes, or you guys had? But it sounds like you had a small production like team. So is it setting up multiple cameras, or was it like after production you guys were? Because yeah, I was really curious about the repetition and kind of you just explaining how guerrilla everything was.
Yeah, it was always baked into the plan that we had to repeat the exact scenes, and they had to grow a little bit each time, because if we redid it and if anything was I wanted it to, like, my mom gave the best review the first time she saw it in the theater. She saw I Am a Ghost for the first time in a theater, and the San Francisco Chronicle approached her and said, "What did you think of the movie?" And she said, "I thought it was defective. I thought there's something wrong with the videotape." And I was like, good. It's like I want you to feel like it's repeating, right? Because like, again, it's one of those things. So by the way, I Am a Ghost has been like over the years, oh, I forgot about that. It's been done by several like theater troupes who just wanted to like do their own adaptations, and they're all like in Argentina and Spain and Mexico. And I was like, oh, this is great that like Latin America has latched onto this. And they sent me their renditions of it, and it was really cool because they actually they didn't even try. None of them tried to recreate the repetitions because they knew that would be kind of against the point of live theater, right? Because this is really about watching a memory over and over again. So the only time we had to redo it was for different angles. So the first 25 minutes is one angle, dollhouse style, right? And then she talks to the psychic. Act 2 is the same exact repetitions, but now you're like uncomfortably close and you're seeing details. And that's when we had to reshoot everything.
Thank you.
Sure.
Yeah.
The Blu-ray. Is there deleted scenes? Are there bloopers?
There are deleted scenes and bloopers. And that's where you get to hear like a lot of the production audio. It's really funny because my husband, for the longest time, he was like, don't let anyone know how guerrilla this was. And I kept saying, like, we should hold that with pride. But he had a point, though. And you even pointed out that for the time that it was my second film. And, you know, a lot of us filmmakers of that class were just like, okay, well, you know, we have to kind of puff our chests out. Like, yeah, I'm a grown man. I made movies. But now that this has a life of its own, I'm kind of like, people should see how we did this, you know? And how fragile the props were. Because like if you look up like the NSF and you look at what the bed and breakfast looks like, it's like a cheery. They're like pictures of Barbra Streisand and Dolly Parton everywhere, you know. And we had to like redo a lot of that to make it look darker. And so a lot of these props were like precarious. So there's lots of like these action scenes where like she's running through and she like smashes through props, you know. And they're all on the Blu-ray. Sure.
Any other questions? Well, speaking of the Blu-ray, tell us, is it available? How do we find it?
So this remastered version of I Am a Ghost also happens to be the only version available now. I'm very happy about that, right? Like, because if you watch it on Apple or if you watch it on Amazon Prime or on Tubi, it's also on Tubi. It's on a bunch of streaming platforms. It's going to be this version, but the Blu-ray is the version that has the director's commentary. I don't like calling it the director's commentary because it's me, my husband, and Anna watching the movie. She's like really stoned. And one of the things I love about Anna is she teaches Shakespeare. You know, she's a hardcore theater actress. She's I don't know if you know much about what she does on stage, but she's notorious. You know, she would hate to be called a workhorse, you know, because she's much more than a workhorse, but she's also that, right? So it's really funny when you have someone who's like really well versed and she's really good at like dissecting linguistics for theater students, to have her in the commentary watching a scene, and she's like, "Oh shit, dude! You remember this? Oh man! Oh, I done fucked that up. Oh!" And then she like clears her throat. She remembers where she is. So if you want to hear her do that, there's actually an excerpt of that on my Instagram feed, like as a little teaser, just to get people to watch the Blu-ray. But yes, there's lots of them.
Well, I hope some folks are, if you want to rewatch this, you can share it with your friends. That is probably the best way to do that at this point.
I think so, yeah. Yeah, please do. And if you have any opinions, hot takes, anything, you know how to find me. Just hit me up. I'm always willing to talk about this movie.
Well, thank you all for being here and keeping this film alive. Thank you, HP, for being here.
Thank you for having me. Thank you all. Thank you.
And then, yeah, the Spring Showcase is just beginning, so check out more films throughout the week. All right, good night.
Good night. Thank you. Wow, that was just as lively as the SDAFF screening last time. Remember how lively that was?